Welcome to CourtSpiral, where truth is stranger than fiction. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking legal battles that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice. In the world of the rich and powerful, no one is beyond the law, but sometimes the law itself becomes a game where the stakes are higher than we can imagine. Let's take a look at how the landmark case of Brown v. Board of Education unfolded. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court was faced with a monumental decision that would shape the very fabric of American society. The case revolved around the question of school segregation, a practice that had been upheld for decades under the doctrine of separate but equal. This doctrine emerged from the 1896 case of Plessy v. Ferguson, which allowed states to maintain racially segregated public facilities. However, as the civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s, the legitimacy of this doctrine was increasingly called into question. The case that would challenge the status quo involved a young African-American girl named Linda Brown. Linda lived in Topeka, Kansas, and was required to walk miles to her segregated school, even though a white school was much closer to her home. Her father, Oliver Brown, along with several other parents, filed a lawsuit against the Board of Education of Topeka, arguing that segregated schools were inherently unequal and violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. As the case made its way to the Supreme Court, it was consolidated with several other similar cases from across the country, each presenting a challenge to the constitutionality of racial segregation in public schools. The plaintiffs, represented by a team of lawyers led by Thurgood Marshall, argued that segregation not only denied African American children equal educational opportunities, but also instilled a sense of inferiority that could have lasting psychological effects. The Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, heard arguments in December 1952. The justices faced immense pressure as the nation was divided over the issue of segregation. The court deliberated, and in a historic decision on May 17, 1954, it ruled unanimously that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. The court stated that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal, effectively overturning the Plessy v. Ferguson precedent. Just when it seemed like this case was about to wrap up, something unexpected happened. The ruling left the implementation of desegregation to the states, which led to significant resistance in many areas, particularly in the South. Many school boards were slow to act, and some openly defied the Supreme Court's decision. The phrase, "with all deliberate speed," used by the court became a loophole that allowed segregationist policies to persist. The aftermath of Brown v. Board of Education sparked a nationwide debate on civil rights and equality. It galvanized activists and organizations like the NAACP, who pushed for further legal challenges and civil disobedience against segregation. The case also set the stage for subsequent landmark cases, such as Loving v. Virginia in 1967, which invalidated laws against interracial marriage, and Roe v. Wade in 1973, which addressed women's reproductive rights. In the end, justice prevailed, but it left behind many unanswered questions. Was the verdict truly fair, or was there more beneath the surface? While Brown v. Board of Education was a monumental step toward equality, the struggle for civil rights was far from over. It revealed the complexities of implementing change within a deeply entrenched societal system. The next case we'll explore is Roe v. Wade, another landmark decision that would send shockwaves through American society. In 1973, the Supreme Court faced a contentious issue: the legality of abortion. The case arose when a woman known by the pseudonym Jane Roe challenged the Texas laws prohibiting abortion except when the mother's life was in danger. Roe argued that the law was unconstitutional, violating her right to privacy as protected by the 14th Amendment. The case quickly gained national attention, as it touched on issues of women's rights, bodily autonomy, and moral beliefs about when life begins. The Supreme Court's decision in this case would have profound implications for women's reproductive rights and the political landscape of the United States. The court, led by Justice Harry Blackmun, issued its ruling on January 22, 1973. The justices held that a woman's right to choose to have an abortion fell within the right to privacy, and that states could not impose a blanket ban on abortion in the first trimester of pregnancy. The ruling established a framework that balanced a woman's right to privacy with the state's interests in regulating abortions as the pregnancy progressed. While the decision was celebrated by many as a victory for women's rights, it also ignited a firestorm of opposition from anti-abortion activists who viewed it as a moral and ethical failure. The ruling led to the emergence of powerful pro-life movements and sparked ongoing legal battles at both state and federal levels. Just when it seemed like the issue was settled, the landscape shifted dramatically. In the decades that followed, various states began enacting restrictive laws aimed at undermining Roe v. Wade. These laws included waiting periods, mandatory counseling, and parental consent laws for minors. The Supreme Court continued to hear cases related to abortion, leading to a series of decisions that both upheld and chipped away at the rights established in Roe. One of the most significant cases was Planned Parenthood v. Casey in 1992. The Supreme Court upheld the central holding of Roe, affirming that women have a constitutional right to choose, but also allowed states to impose certain restrictions, as long as they did not place an undue burden on the woman's right to choose. This ruling further complicated the legal landscape surrounding abortion, as states began testing the limits of what constituted an undue burden. As we fast forward to the present day, we find ourselves in a new era of challenges to Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court agreed to hear a case known as Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, which involves a Mississippi law banning most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The outcome of this case could potentially overturn or significantly modify Roe v. Wade, leading to a patchwork of state laws across the country and reigniting the fierce debates surrounding reproductive rights. In the end, the implications of Roe v. Wade extend beyond individual rights. They touch upon the very essence of personal liberty, privacy, and the role of government in personal decisions. Whether justice has truly been served remains a question that lingers in the minds of many. Next, we delve into the case of Obergefell v. Hodges, another watershed moment in the ongoing struggle for civil rights in America. This case emerged from a desire for equality among same-sex couples. In 2015, the Supreme Court faced the question of whether same-sex marriage was a constitutional right under the 14th Amendment's due process and equal protection clauses. James Obergefell, a same-sex couple from Ohio, had filed suit against the state after his partner, John Arthur, passed away. They had married in Maryland, where same-sex marriage was legal, but Ohio refused to recognize their marriage on the death certificate. Obergefell argued that this denial was unconstitutional, highlighting the discrimination faced by same-sex couples in states that did not recognize their marriages. As the case made its way to the Supreme Court, it became clear that the justices were grappling with deeply held beliefs about marriage, love, and the role of the state in regulating personal relationships. The oral arguments were intense, with passionate pleas from both sides. On June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court delivered a landmark ruling, holding that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right. The majority opinion, authored by Justice Anthony Kennedy, stated that marriage is a fundamental right inherent to the liberty of individuals. The decision was met with jubilation from supporters of LGBTQ+ rights and marked a significant victory in the ongoing fight for equality. However, even as the court's decision was celebrated, it also opened the door to new challenges. Many religious organizations and individuals expressed concern over their rights to practice their beliefs in the face of new requirements to recognize same-sex marriages. This tension has led to ongoing legal battles over issues such as wedding services, adoption rights, and healthcare access for same-sex couples. In the end, Obergefell v. Hodges not only changed the legal landscape for marriage equality, but also sparked a broader conversation about love, acceptance, and the rights of individuals to live authentically. The implications of this ruling continue to resonate, raising questions about the balance between individual rights and religious freedoms. Now let's shift our focus to a profound case that revolves around environmental rights and corporate accountability. Massachusetts v. Environmental Protection Agency. In this case, the Supreme Court was tasked with determining whether the EPA had the authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions under the Clean Air Act. The case emerged in 2003 when a coalition of states, including Massachusetts, sued the EPA, arguing that the agency was failing to regulate emissions from new motor vehicles, which contributed to climate change. The plaintiffs contended that the EPA's inaction was harming public health and the environment, and they sought to compel the agency to take action. In April 2007, the Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling, recognizing that greenhouse gases are air pollutants under the Clean Air Act and that the EPA has the authority to regulate them. This decision was pivotal in the fight against climate change, as it opened the door for further regulations and policy changes aimed at reducing emissions and protecting the environment. The ruling not only had implications for environmental policy, but also set the stage for ongoing debates about the government's role in addressing climate change. It underscored the necessity for regulatory bodies to take action in the face of scientific evidence and public concern, and it empowered states and communities to hold corporations accountable for their environmental impact. Just when it seemed like the EPA was on a path toward meaningful regulation, the landscape shifted once again. Subsequent administrations have varied in their commitment to environmental protections, leading to a tug-of-war over policies and regulations that affect both public health and the planet's future. In the end, Massachusetts v. EPA highlighted the complexities of environmental law and the interplay between state and federal authority. It serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for environmental justice and the need for continued advocacy to ensure a sustainable future. Finally, we arrive at a case that speaks to the very heart of free speech and its limits: Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission. In 2010, the Supreme Court faced a controversial question: does the First Amendment protect political spending by corporations and unions? The case originated from a dispute over a documentary film critical of then-Senator Hillary Clinton, which was produced by Citizens United, a nonprofit corporation. The Federal Election Commission sought to restrict the film's release, arguing that it violated campaign finance laws designed to limit corporate influence in elections. Citizens United challenged the law, claiming that it infringed upon their right to free speech. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court ruled that political spending is a form of protected speech under the First Amendment. The court's majority opinion argued that restricting independent political expenditures by corporations and unions would limit free expression and hinder democratic discourse. The ruling effectively removed limits on corporate spending in political campaigns, leading to the rise of super PACs and an influx of money into elections. Just when it seemed like the debate over campaign finance was settled, the ruling ignited a firestorm of criticism from those who feared that the decision would give wealthy corporations and individuals undue influence over the political process. The implications of Citizens United reverberate through American politics, raising questions about the integrity of elections and the power dynamics that shape policy decisions. In the end, Citizens United v. FEC serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle to balance free speech with the potential for corruption in politics. It challenges the very essence of democracy and raises critical questions about who truly has a voice in the political arena. As we reflect on these landmark cases, we are reminded of the dynamic nature of the law and its profound impact on society. Each case has not only shaped legal precedents but also influenced the lives of countless individuals. From civil rights to environmental justice and political free speech, these cases reveal the complexities of justice and the ongoing quest for equality and fairness. What do you think about these cases? Was justice truly served, or did the system fail? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to CourtSpiral for more shocking stories from the world of law. Don't forget to like and subscribe to CourtSpiral. We're back every week with new shocking stories. Let's continue exploring just how unpredictable justice can be.